Why are we seeing the split in the sector, and what does it mean for the market? Dan, what do you think? I mean, $4 trillion, we're putting so much credence in this for Nvidia. Does it matter that much? Does it point us in any direction going forward?
Sure. It points in the direction that I think a lot of folks who've been invested in the name for, the last 3 years know that it's been a monopoly. They have 90% of high-end GPUs. We know that all of their big customers are clamoring for those GPUs. They've been tripping over each other for years now. And then you have, some of these sovereigns, who might get more exposure to them after we kind of work through some of these export bans. I mean, listen, Nvidia to me is no longer the story. The story is how it broadens out from some of their customers and then the customers that are basically going to be disrupted by the technology that comes out of the backside of this, right? So you keep hearing about AI agents. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to replace a lot of automated tasks, right? A lot of data entry and that sort of thing. Per seat licenses. This has been a huge trend for like 15 years. These SaaS companies, right? And the model has been something that people have really enjoyed. The companies have had higher valuations than lots of other different software models. Well, all of a sudden, if they are basically being attacked by the idea of these AI agents, they don't exist yet. And that's a really important part about it. But if you look at a company like Salesforce, they have severely lagged, right? That's a big component of the IGV. Yeah. If you look at like Adobe, I mean, Adobe can't get out of its own way. A company like Figma that they tried to buy a couple years ago is coming at their core competency, and they're using a better technology to do it. So that, to me, is what's going on with software. But if you look at semis, it's really being dragged up by Nvidia and Taiwan Semi, and that's been the story for the last 2 years.
Guy, you're nodding.
Before I effort to answer.
Yeah.
Are you familiar, Tim, with the saying, the apple does not fall far from the tree? You're familiar with this, right?
And I think I know what it means, and I think I know why you're bringing it up.
Well, I'm bringing it up because we know Courtney is lovely, but now it's obvious the reasons why, because her folks are here, and we had the opportunity to spend some time with Courtney's folks. And from Ohio.
It's a happy day here on the set. It's wonderful.
Bring your family to work.
To have you. Yes. Anyway, did you want to go on?
I will effort to answer that question. I mean, first of all, the IGV is basically at all-time highs, and maybe deservedly so. But I think one of the reasons it could potentially roll over here or be underperformed vis-a-vis some of these other things is valuation is now a problem. As Dan just mentioned, I think Palantir is the third biggest holding. Microsoft, Oracle, Salesforce, the fourth, and Adobe's in there as well. All those names, you could say, historically are extraordinarily expensive, especially given some of the runs that these names have. So, I'm not head over heels about software or semis here, but I got to tell you, software, I think, has gotten itself a little expensive.
And I'll talk kind of the two different things that Dan and Guy have introduced. I think Dan's talked about, big picture thematic dynamics with software and the threat posed by AI and some of the, potentially the obsolescence of some of these companies. Maybe not that, but certainly not the leading edge, and certainly maybe not deserving of the multiples Guy's talking about. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's also just technical dynamics with the market. If you look at it on a one-year rolling basis, software's outperformed so the IGVs outperformed the SMH by 25%. Now, over the last 3 months, semis have come back. They've zoomed to all-time highs. And people typically, if you've been following the market cadence over the last 2 years, it's semis lead, software follows, and almost everything else from there. We're not necessarily seeing that right now. I think these guys have talked about some places. I mean, the valuation in Palantir is lunacy, if you think about it. The valuation in Salesforce relative to itself is actually really quite attractive. I like CrowdStrike. I do think that cyber is still a place that at least has carved out more of a moat in a world where AI could be very disruptive to that whole space. Adobe, disaster. And again, this is a company that is truly right now looks like the Apple of software. And I think we all know what that metaphor means right now.
Carter, what about you? What do the charts tell you when you're looking at the semis versus the software names, or even pull out individual names if that's what strikes your fancy on these?
Well, Tim makes the good point that it's really what time frame one takes. So on a 3-month basis, of course, we know that semis have almost doubled the performance if you look at the SOX, the SMH versus the IGV. And yet, of course, over time, the IGV is the more enduring asset in the sense that semis are quite cyclical. But what we know today, just here and now, is that the IGV closed on the absolute low and volume expanded, an outlier performance in terms of underperformance versus the market. And it happened, of course, right at its former high. EGV literally returned to the penny, to its December 9th high, some 8-9 months ago and then hit its head. I think there's probably more of a drawdown to come based on today's single very poor action.